Today we're going to begin looking at reflexive verbs. We're going to begin with regular ER verbs in the present tense. But first we need to start with what are reflexive verbs. Reflexive verbs are a specific subcategory of verbs where the subject and the object are the exact same person or thing. Okay, so when you are doing something to yourself. We don't technically have reflexive verbs in English. What we have are reflexive pronouns, which is the word self. So saying, I washed myself. Okay, the verb washed didn't change, okay, but the pronoun myself is a reflexive pronoun because I am the person doing the washing, but I am also the person being washed. I'm doing it to myself. In French, rather than being a separate pronoun, this is a subcategory of verb. These are really easy to identify because any reflexive verb infinitive in French will begin with a se or an s apostrophe if the verb begins with a vowel or the letter H. So for example, the verb laver, to wash, if you are washing yourself, it becomes se laver. So, questions 1 and 2 on your devoir. Are the following verbs reflexive? All you have to do is write oui or non. Se brosser and réveiller. Remember that all reflexive verbs will begin with a se or an s apostrophe. If that is not there, then it is not reflexive. In order to conjugate reflexive verbs, we're going to follow 3 basic steps. It's almost the exact same as a non-reflexive verb. The first thing you're going to do is figure out the type of verb it is by looking at the last 2 letters. Almost all reflexive verbs are either ER, IR, or RE verbs. There are very, very few irregular reflexive verbs. They do technically exist, but 98% of the time it's going to fall into one of our regular patterns. There are far fewer irregular reflexives than random irregular verbs. The base verb itself will conjugate the same way as usual. Okay, so for example, in se laver, the laver conjugates the same as every ER verb always does. The only difference is the se. The se will also change in order to match the subject pronoun. So je becomes me, je me lave. Tu becomes te, tu te laves. Il, elle, and on remains as se, il se lave. Nous and vous both will change in order to match the subject pronoun. Yes, you do need both of them. Nous lavons. We wash ourselves. And then finally, il and elle pluriel, the they, also takes se, just like the singular. So, to look at the entire verb conjugation, the se will change based on those exact same patterns we just saw, me, te, se, nous, vous, se. And the laver will conjugate like any other regular ER verb. Drop your ER, LAV on everything, and then throw on your endings, EESE, ONS, EZ, ENT. You'll notice that this is extremely similar to the direct and indirect objects. If you think about it, reflexive verbs are very, very similar. So I wash who? I wash myself. Me, je me lave. The main difference with these is actually in the third person, the il, elle, on, il, and elle. Okay, simply because we're not going to bother with the le and the la and the lay. Okay, this is its own category. Okay, but those first and second persons They overlap with the direct objects the exact same way you think that it would. So let's look at question number 3. Is the following sentence reflexive or not? So, ma mère réveille mon frère à 6 heures. Is that reflexive or is it not reflexive? So find your verb and figure out whether or not it's a reflexive verb. Write oui or non. And then sentences 4 and 5. Okay, this time you're going to give me the correct form of the verb. Okay? Please write the entire sentence on your devoir. I don't want just your verb conjugation. It's really more helpful for you to write the entire sentence so I can see what you're doing. It's also more helpful for your brain to help remember what's going on. Okay? So 4, we're going to conjugate se brosser, okay, to match tous les cheveux tous les 10 minutes. And 5, we're going to conjugate se réveiller to match Paul et Maurice.